Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today I decided to switch things up a bit and play some Battlefield Bad Company 2. I was playing as the engineer, having a lot of fun, so that's going to be going on in the background. But today, I wanted to talk about how DICE is using the Frostbite 3 engine to make Battlefield 4 feel more realistic and more alive. They recently came out with a new video explaining how the new engine is going to interact with things here and there. And the first thing that caught my eye is, well, we already know about Levolution, how skyscrapers are going to be falling down, explosions are going to be happening all over the place, and destruction is going to be rampant throughout the maps. And it's going to really feel like you have an influence on how the map progresses. It's gonna make it feel like you're interacting with the world and you have an impact on how it's gonna look by the end of the round. But they also kind of talked about more subtler things, and they talked about a kind of a wind simulator. I know how silly that sounds, but they now have the technology with the Frostbite 3 engine where they can push wind through a map and through an environment, and the objects in it will interact with it. So trees, water, the clouds up in the sky, when they push the wind through it, they are going to sway and move depending on what direction and how strong that wind is. In past video games, the way that developers kind of created things was that they would place down vegetation, they would place down trees and objects, and they would kind of make them randomly sway back and forth to try to simulate what wind would be, but it wasn't as natural as it could have been, like what we would experience in the real world. But now, with this technology, while it's not going to dramatically change the way that we play the game by any means, it'll kind of be a subtle thing that's in the background that while we may not notice right away, it'll be kind of more of a subconscious thing that's going on that truly makes the world feel more dynamic and realistic, which is pretty amazing. Now, another thing that they were kind of showing off is how waves are going to be playing a pretty significant role in naval combat in the upcoming game. No longer will it be this flat surface that you just kind of paddle around in, but if you are in a boat duel, you're on the high seas, waves are going all over the place, you can use them to your advantage. You can go into the trough of one, the lower section, get out of line of sight of the enemy to maybe reload your tow missile, or to just kind of get an advantage to block line of sight so that the enemy can't shoot at you. Then as you exit the trough, you go on the crest, shoot at the enemy, and hopefully take them out. And this is something that I was not expecting in Battlefield 4. When I kind of heard about naval combat, I was a little skeptical. I thought it would be kind of lame. I thought it was going to be like it was in Battlefield 3, where things were going to be very flat. It wasn't going to be very dynamic. It was going to be kind of just skimming across the water, and it would be like everyone's out in the open. And that doesn't really sound all that appealing to me. But now that waves are being put in place and that you can interact with them and use them to your advantage, it's a pretty interesting prospect, and I cannot wait to see how they approach that on a lot of their maps in Battlefield 4. So overall, I'm pretty impressed by what I see with the Frostbite 3 engine, and going into it, I was a little skeptical. I thought it was just going to be like a Frostbite 2.5. They really weren't going to be pushing the boundaries, but now that we've seen skyscrapers falling, now that we've seen a lot more destruction, the environments are going to feel more alive. They are really pushing the engine, and so far I'm impressed by what they do, and I cannot wait to see what the final product is. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about today is that apparently DICE has come out and said that they want destruction in Battlefield 4 to feel more like it was in Bad Company 2, where basically you could destroy an entire map, take it to the ground, everything is rubbled. And while I'm cool with that, I like the prospect of it, I think a lot of people need to realize that if they do this, those maps that are able to just fall to the ground, it's not going to be like Siege of Shanghai. All the skyscrapers aren't going to fall, because if that was the case, it'd be a little bit ridiculous. But let's say they have like a village map. If they have every single one of those buildings fall to the ground, it slows down the gameplay, and that's simply because now there are a lot of different areas for the enemy to hide in, and if you want to run across the street, you have to watch out for all of these different angles now, because there are more of them, because there aren't walls to block line of sight. And so when I was playing when I was playing on Arica Harbor, there were so many times where I just noticed that no one was moving around the map. Everyone was taking their time, and while that makes things a lot more tactical, and it also kind of had to do with the fact that the controls in Bad Company 2 are a little bit clunkier, in general, because there were so many ruined buildings and there were so many different places for enemies to hide in, to just run across the street left you extremely exposed, and it was a lot harder to kind of cover all your different angles because now there were just a lot more angles to cover. So if they do decide to go down this route, I think people may be in kind of for a surprise that the gameplay may slow down a lot more than they're used to if they come from just a Battlefield 3 kind of background. And they may kind of work around this. They may make it so that you can't hide in the buildings like you did in Bad Company 2. They may make it so that when the buildings fall, they really do crumble to the ground and there isn't as many kind of nooks and crannies where people can hide in. And if they kind of go down that route, I think that would solve a lot of the slower gameplay that happens when everything crumbles to the ground. Really, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I love the prospect that they are going to try to make destruction more like it was in Bad Company 2. I think that's a good thing, but people may be kind of in for a surprise if they only have a Battlefield 3 kind of background, that the gameplay may be a little bit slower than they're expecting. But that is about it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I love the engineer class in Bad Company 2. The weapons don't have a lot of ammunition, but they hit so hard. Like if you are up close and you see a couple of guys, they drop just extremely fast. It feels even faster than what you would experience in Battlefield 3. It could just be my imagination, but these weapons were beasts. So I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.